the spiritual discussion program on Blessed Radio. This is Brother Saad, and hopefully I've got Brother Rainer with me. Are you there, Brother Rainer?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. We've got you logged in. Thank you for that. And I'm expecting Brother Gregory, but I can't see him at the moment, so hopefully he will join us. So, dear listeners, as always, the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushin. And the topic for tonight, we have a new topic every week. The topic for tonight is consider what is of benefit to you. As always, we'd love you to join us with your questions or comments. The number to contact us here in UK, it is 079 444 31366. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. So I like to talk about the weather, as you know, Brother Rainer. So I'm going to tell you what it is like in London here. Right now the sun is down, so it's very dark. It's been cold. It's night time, that's why. Thanks. Yes, it's after 6, so it's night time. So yes, it's cold now. It really hasn't rained today. It was clear skies actually earlier on, but it's gone cold again. So Brother Rainer, please can you tell us how it is where you are? And you're in Germany, I'm sure.
It's even darker than in London because we are 1 hour further east.
Yes.
So I cannot see at the moment what the weather is like.
Okay.
Because I've got a white Christmas star in my window. But it was a wonderful day. Blue skies all day long. Pretty cold, but as it should be for this time of the year.
Okay. Your volume on my side is, I'm hearing you, it's a bit low. I don't know if you can adjust on your side. We'll see. I'll try and do something here.
Okay, wait a second. I've just changed back. I just made equipment changes.
Okay.
So let's see.
So while you're doing that, I'm going to read out to our... Oops. I'm getting a call now, which I don't want right now. So, dear listeners, I'm going to read out to you a description of the Grail Message. What is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abdrushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the working of the laws of nature and the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the 5 senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Abdrushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author, Abrushin. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, I just want to remind you again, the topic for discussion tonight is, somebody's telling me we are not being broadcast, so I just want to get some help on that. So let me just play something while we're waiting for that. So, Brother Ryan, if you can just hold on for me.
Yes, I'm holding on.
I'm just going to play something to, well, we hope to get the people to be listening. Hopefully, listeners, you are listening to us, but I'm just going to get it checked. Okay, so just hold on a bit. Is it the live computers are broadcasting? Yeah.
From the time I've heard
Everything you said.
So what was that listening to? It's still there.
Okay. Okay, listeners, I'm back again. Brother Ron, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, then we're going to continue. Maybe the listener who's contacted me, maybe he can't hear. His side is not working. So, Brother Reiner, you know, so the topic tonight is consider what is of benefit to you. And when we have, let's say, elections and the governments have their own slogans or parties are fighting for election, one of the slogans you hear is very regularly is education, education, education. So my question is, when we think about what is of benefit to us, would you consider that to be the top thing for benefit for us, education?
Okay.
I know it's that's a more political slogan, but obviously we are talking on spiritual level, but in a way that's what people this is what people think are important. So I just want us to think about it.
Well, definitely people think education is very important, and it definitely has an important role to play. But we must see that education nowadays, and even how people understand it, it's really directed towards learning those skills that we are successful in terms of money or wealth or obtaining material wealth. And the direction, the aim if that's the only aim, to come into a position to gain material wealth or amass some material wealth, that is definitely not the way to happiness and even to an economic stability. Just the concentration on this, just on the single aim, I want to obtain material wealth, and I want to learn those things, those skills I need to obtain material wealth, is just counterproductive. although most people think it's very important, and all the countries shout we need more education, and and we have no chance, or we have had no chance because we didn't get the right education. That's not the case. It's just this one-sided trying to grasp this wanting with your own will, to gain the necessary skills to have some material gains from it, creates a world which is creates not a paradise, but it creates a world full of greedy people being in a perpetuous fight with each other, to gain some material wealth. And it turns life into a struggle. That's probably the right word, what one hears all the time. A struggle which is unfruitful, because in spite of that, we spend millions on education. We have all a sense, and all of us know that somehow a good material foundation just seems to slip away. We know that, I don't know the numbers anymore, but a huge part even of the population, even in the richest country like the United States, earn just so much. I think it's about 60% or something, if I remember correctly, that they just could, in case of an emergency, just gather together about $600 to survive. And that's not really a good foundation. That's not really the cushion, the material cushion, the financial cushion we need. And that in spite of this thing, of so many resources being spent on education. So the real question is now, why is that? We all concentrate on gaining material wealth, and our whole life seems to be possessed of it, and we perceive it as a struggle. We forget that really, when we talk of benefits, we must not only talk about material benefits, but they must be balanced with spiritual benefits. And only when we get those spiritual benefits into balance with the striving for material benefits, will we make some progress to a more prosperous society where there is more abundance of material goods. But I think, to answer the question, or to sum it up at the end, I think education is important, but we have to know where its place is, and and we also should be concerned about the contents of education. As education is at the moment, it is not beneficial for the human being, with its one-sided concentration on increasing the IQ of people and using this kind of cleverness, which is morally blind, to obtain material wealth. I pass it back to you.
Thank you, Brother Rainer. So you've mentioned a lot of things there, about the sort of current education sort of goals, and which is for material gain, and as you say, is unbalanced. So my obvious, I can just see Brother Gregory's just going to join us, so let me put him on. Just 1 second. Hello, Brother Gregory. Are you there?
Hello.
Greetings. Yeah. Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
I'm just going to continue with what we're just talking about now, and then I'll invite you to say hello there. So we just talked about the education, which is the big slogan that especially when there's election, that parties try to promote that. And I asked that to Brother Rainer, if that is what is the benefit that we should be seeking. And basically, in summary, he said that it's that education is for material gain, and it's not balanced for human sort of benefit, you could say, and so yeah, it's just not in the, it's just too one-sided. So my obvious question to that, Brother Ryan, I'm going to go back to you on it really. What should we be seeking in benefit, because people long for example, what is, peace, love, happiness, and justice. This is when you ask people what they want, people want happiness, they want love, they want peace. So how do we achieve that? That's what let's say our heart desires, those things. And the education, what we do is only to help us in our material things. And so how do we have that benefit? That's to Brother Rainer. Are you there? I think I've lost Brother Rainer. 1 second. Brother Rainer, are you there?
Is he not on mute?
Okay. Oh, maybe. Brother Rainer, are you on mute? Hello? Brother Rainer?
Are we on 2 Skypes now?
Oh, you're on 2 Skypes, because I've joined you with Brother Gregory. So if you can cancel the one you were on earlier.
Okay, wait a second. I think it has moved over.
It's already connected, I think.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Brother Gregory, you're still there, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you're still there. So, Brother Ron, I think you missed what I was just saying. Did you hear me? I just want to check.
Yes.
You heard me. Okay, so I'm putting a question back to you again. Okay, there's somebody trying to call. I'm not sure if this person is actually meant to be joining us or not. So, Brother Ron, basically my question to you is, what should we be seeking? Because we feel we want love, happiness, and peace. And you can say that the education doesn't give us that. It's only material gain. So how can we have the thing that we really want, and which is love, happiness, and peace?
Well, funnily enough, the answer to that question, according to the Grail Message, at least, is very simple. Are you hearing me all right?
Yes, I am. Go ahead, Brother Rainer. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. If I just can quote one sentence from the Grail Message, and it talks about cooperation in creation for the benefit of his environment. Man does not know what it is to give. Man does not know what it is to give jubilant thanks while happily enjoying the conscious life granted to him. While cooperating in the great creation in the way God wants and justly expects of him for the benefit of his environment. He does not even suspect that just in this and only in this lies his real welfare as well as his advance and ascent. I think it's really worthwhile to go over that sentence once again in some more careful manner. Okay, he's saying, man, the human being does not know what it is to give jubilant thanks while happily enjoying the conscious life granted to him. While cooperating in the great creation in the way God wants for the benefit of his environment. So this is the important thing. Cooperating in the great creation in the way God wants, not how we want it, but cooperating in creation in the way God wants, and justly expects of him for the benefit of his environment. So we have to cooperate and work in creation for the benefit of our environment, which is just these things, that sphere which is around us. And the next sentence is very interesting, and we should really have a closer look at this one. He, that is the human being, does not even suspect that just in this, and only in this, lies his real welfare, as well as his advance and ascent. Okay, if I understand that sentence correctly, if we cooperate in creation in the way of God wants, for the benefit of our environment, then only in this way lies our real welfare. This real welfare, as I interpret it, or as I understand it here, means the material welfare, because it goes on, as well as his advance and ascent, which can be the ascent definitely spiritual, and advance is probably also meant spiritually. So our real welfare and our advance and ascent in a material way, on the physical plane as well on the spiritual plane, will only happen if we work for the benefit of our environment, if we cooperate in creation how God wants. And that's a very simple answer. So we just have to do good and enhance our environment, make sure that it blossoms up, and everything else will settle into place. That's the astonishing simplicity in the Grail Message and the answers you get there. And unfortunately, we have become so complicated in our thinking that we like to think a lot about things and like to make things to be very difficult. And such a simple answer, just looking at it superficially, might not satisfy this or that person. But in spite of it, it stands its ground, in my opinion, and one can really dig deeper into it, what is all implied to it. But okay, that's that's what I want to say for now. In order to achieve bliss, a blissful state, and be happy, we have to cooperate in creation for the benefit of our environment. And the cooperation, of course, goes along the lines as determined by God. That is in the sentence, in the way God wants. So I'll pass it back.
Thank you, Brother Reiner, for that. So I'm now, Brother Gregory, I want to welcome you back onto the show. Please tell us where you are and how is the weather where you are?
Well, it's a great evening in Brussels here, and it's getting colder.
Very cold, getting colder. I think same here. So yes, welcome to the show. I'm going to follow on from what Brother Ryan has been saying. He said clearly that we need to, for us to be happy or for us to have bliss, we need to cooperate with our environment, nature, and that's the way God has, let's say, built how He's built this creation. So in a way, we need to know how He works, how God works. So what I'd like to ask you there, Brother Gregory, then, how do we find out about that nature and about creation and about how God works? How can we find out about that so that we get benefit for us? Because it's clear from what Brother Ryan has been saying is we know we don't exist on our own, but for us to have happiness, it's not a happiness for just alone for us. It's never for us alone. It's like the happiness is always mutual. And so yes, my question to you, Brother Gregory, really is, how do we find out about nature, creation, and how God works?
Well, thanks for that question. And it's a very strange one. How do we find out when we ourselves are integral parts of nature? And it's ironical that even as a part of nature, we do not know how the scheme of things work. It's a shame because you now have a scenario where the human being is confused, but it knows that whatever it does, there must be balance. That if he doesn't make the effort to breathe properly, or if he eats without making use of what he has eaten and then eliminating the waste, that there will be problems. So these things have not been observed. Basically, is that the human spirit or the personality doesn't pay attention to the fine intuition that guides it. So the first step is to clarify one's spirit. So it's able, whoever the person may be, is able to listen to one's fine intuition. In doing that, is able now to open itself. So we have openness. And once there's openness, it means it's able to perceive the fine vibrations. Although one doesn't have to be that advanced, one knows that if one doesn't breathe in properly, one cannot breathe out. So in that case, there must be balance. And if along the line we have a balance in all that we do, that is a first step. We also know that we belong to the environment, that the environment is not something which is far-fetched, that even our thoughts, all our activities are consumed or take place within the environment. And therefore, even if in our thoughts we emit terrible things into the environment, by law of homogeneity, of course, we are attached to these terrible things we have emitted into the environment, that these things will come to haunt us. So basically, there is the need to understand the features of this environment and ourselves, such that we can adjust ourselves to it. The cooperation which is meant is basically harmony. Harmony is not from one person alone or from one party. In harmony, there are many constituents, and therefore, we ourselves should do the best we can to ensure we are in harmony with ourselves, basically, and our neighbors, and also the so-called environment. How we have to proceed has been well spelled out in the work In the Light of Truth, the Grail Message.
Thank you for that, Brother Gregory. So, what you're saying is basically that we have this intuition, and and we know in a way it's like common sense. That you have to breathe in to breathe out, and you can see the effects of what our actions are in the world, very clearly. So it's like we just know that this is, if we do this will be the reaction, or if we do something, let's say, which is damaging, then obviously we get the result of that damage to us as well. So in a way, what you're saying is we can just sense these things But do you, going back to you, Brother Gregory, would you say we need to have a knowledge? I mean, we talked at the beginning about education. Do we need to have a faith? Let's say, do we need to have a faith or a belief of as well?
The question is it necessary to have faith or beliefs in breathing in and breathing out? Is it necessary to have faith that when you have eaten, the body consumes what it needs and the waste has to be eliminated? Is that not intrinsic knowledge? Whenever faith is mentioned, it means certain things have not become experience. For instance, you hear intuition being discussed and is is considered to be theory because the personality hasn't yet experienced what intuition is. As long as it lacks the necessary experience, it relies on faith. And we have all sorts of things being bunched together as faith. But whatever faith is, it must be subjected to the laws of creation or of nature, which many think they understand, and it must be experienced. For without experience, one lacks the necessary knowledge to move forward. Like a child, of course there will be temptations. Of course you will learn to walk and fall, and then walk again. But these are necessary steps. Therefore, it is of vital importance to ensure that man clarifies personally his intuition, that man clarifies what it means to cooperate in creation. Cooperation not only in the physical sense, cooperation in one's thoughts, in one's intellectual thoughts, and also spiritual thoughts. Cooperation in all that is to enable him or her to make progress. For as long as there's no cooperation, which lies in harmony, then there will be problems. And that is where you have one-sidedness, where you have, take for instance, people are prepared to cut down trees because they want a space. But before long, they do not plant trees to balance up. And what then happens, you have within nature the leaves or the plants which converts the carbon dioxide that we emit into food or some other thing. It's no more there. So you now have the plants not being there, or the grass of whatever I care to call it, and that is one-sidedness. So we now, on the one side, we have buildings, many of them, and yet we don't have enough plants.
Thank you for that. Sorry, go on.
Choke that physical environment. Now, because of the one-sidedness, we have all sorts of catastrophes. We can also go to the thoughts of man, where you have wickedness and all sorts of things, coming into play. But on the long run, you find that everything becomes so lopsided and falls back on man. So, as long as one doesn't take time to observe very carefully, the tendency is one-sidedness, which we now know is not in harmony within the scheme of things.
Thank you for that, Brother Gregory. Brother Ryan, I want to talk about now, when we are growing up, we have dreams or we have things we watch, let's say, and we start, liking certain things, let's say sport or music or, whatever we are influenced by, let's say, by watching things and being around our parents and our friends and so on. And then, so what my question to you there is, and you've already talked about that if we want to have benefit for us, it must be, in working in cooperation with our environment. So let's say somebody wants to be a footballer or musician or whatever they seem to be attracted to. Would you say that is just a selfish desire that they just had and they should not pursue that? Even like their dream, that might be their dream. Maybe they want to be a pilot or astronaut, something like that. Especially when you're children, you see something and then you get attracted by it. And as you know, when we grow up, most of these dreams never come true. It just doesn't happen. But what I want to ask you is, should we, when we have something that we are attracted to, should we pursue that? Or should we reflect first and think if it's going to work out is going to be in balance with nature, or so how do we go about our sort of our desires? Following our desires. Let me say, follow our desires. How do we do that?
Well, in the first place, I would like to draw the attention to one word you used, is our desires.
Yes.
And the emphasis on the our. And
yes.
We really have to understand that what we want for ourselves, our desires, are often not the things we need to mature spiritually. We can, because of our free will, we can desire many wrong things. And mostly we do desire wrong things and want wrong things. And which are really not beneficial to us. And we must really find out what are the things which are really beneficial to us. And in the first place, in a spiritual sense. And so nowadays, if we want something and desire things and will things, let's be very careful. Are they really good for us? And one must, in my opinion, we have to ask that question in an adult manner. We must try to come to grips and try to learn and absorb that knowledge which tells us what is good for us. Now, one thing how we can know what is good for us, what is really good for us, and what we really, 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 really want, is our emotions tell us. And the emotions, our emotions, the movements of our spirit, when the spirit moves, that turns into emotions. That's why that word is emotion. The emotions, the vibrations of our spirit, they can tell us how we really, if we really want something. But when I try to find a spouse, I really have to listen to my emotions. If I'm not emotionally aware, I might choose very well the wrong spouse. Or the same if I try to embark on the career. I might, as a child, have been dreaming about driving a steam engine or something else like, I don't know, an astronaut or something. But I think I think it is much more than important. There might be some valid dream, but then one has to be, it must be verified through one's emotions, through one's intuition. The Grail Message uses that word, intuition. And through one's Emotionally, I must be aware, how do I stand to it? And is it really, I must ask the question, is it really beneficial for me? And beneficial in the spiritual sense, do I advance spiritually through what I want? And do I really want it? If I choose a career, I know, for example, many people want to become this or become that, and often they choose it for the wrong reasons. For example, in the banking crisis in 2007 and 8, the most popular profession suddenly was to become a banker, which is quite seems irrational, but it was because people thought, oh, how wonderful it is to be in this money world, and to do all those dirty tricks the bankers do, and because they were portrayed predominantly as dirty money pushers and having wild parties, that became very attractive to the human beings. Now, these are wrong desires, and already that it becomes such a fashion shows that the person is really not looking inside him. Because the important question is, what talents do I have? What talents have I been endowed with? And the process of endowment, I had no control over it. I've been given some talents. I have some talents as a very particular human being. Only one human being like me on this earth, exactly like me. And I have some very unique talents which might lie in, which I have to develop. And if suddenly everyone wants to become banker, there's something wrong. And the same thing is at the heyday of Osama bin Laden, one of the greatest misled people on earth. Osama was the most fashionable first name in the Muslim world, especially, and people were attracted by that. Although the visible effects and the crimes were really so abhorrent that that every reasonable man just turns away and say, keep away from that. But it was attractive to the human beings at the time. And what I want to say with it is that we want many times things which are not good. And many times we select the wrong thing out of wrong considerations because we want to impress, that's the intellect. We want to be someone like Osama, whom the world fears and who is famous all over the world. And or we want to be something like a banker, being in the great money world and being in high finance and shoving the billions around and making clever things with financial operations and things. No, that's not the thing. I have to find out my talents, and I have to purify my emotions so far that I perceive what is really good. And the good thing is, think of creation. We are here in creation, and we are here on earth. And if we embellish, if we improve, if we uplift our environment is everything. That can be when you do the washing up. That is when you dust the cupboards, when you air your house, when you clean your house, when you make a nice garden, you put on flowers on the windowsill. This is all working on the environment. You create some more beautiful thing just around you, and the person passing by has a positive emotion, has a beautiful emotion. He says, oh, he sees a bit of beauty instead of a bit of dirt. So don't throw the trash down onto the street and leave it there, your half-eaten burger or whatever, because the next person feels not good about it. It doesn't look good, and he might tread into it, and everything looks like a garbage can. It is just being every second, every moment of your life trying, make the environment you live in, make it more beautiful, uplift it, and even the most simple thing like keeping it clean is already some good thing and one thing in the right direction. And of course you can go on with everything. The environment is also, it's the person you speak with. It's not the person on the other earth. That's not your environment, the sphere. You have to think of the sphere you are in right now. Speak. If someone talks to you, listen attentively to him. Be polite, answer correctly, put all your effort into a good answer which really helps him if he wants to say something good. Use your emotion to gauge how the other person asks the question. Is that a good question? Then it deserves a good answer. If that's just silly trash, then think of your speech be yes or no. Everything above it or beyond that is of evil. Just keep away from a conversation which is destructive and which poisons the environment. So I think if we come closer to that thing, what I read before, cooperating in the great creation in the way God wants for the benefit of his environment, there we work all the time, and it's the people around us, and we are all the time in an environment. If everyone just thinks about the thing around him and improves that, very quickly the whole country and the whole earth will be uplifted and will resemble a little bit more paradise. And that's really what is meant in that great sentence, thy kingdom come. That means let it be here on earth as it is in paradise. Try to bring paradise here onto this earth, and we will then see paradises come into existence around us. And this can be a garden, this wonderful gardens. We have wonderful gardens. People created wonderful gardens, and they brought really a bit of paradise here on earth. So, some of the gardens, like the Alhambra in Spain, someone who visited it, he was so overcome, he said, it is like walking through paradise through those gardens. Whoever built the Alhambra, that was some very wise Muslim ruler. I do not know it, but this is, for example, a real example where someone created something like paradise here on earth. So it's working in the sphere, uplifting our environment, interacting with the environment for the benefit, interacting in the cooperating the great creation for the benefit of our environment. So I will pass it back to you, Brother Saad.
Thank you so much, Brother Rainer. Dear listeners, you're listening to the Tuesday night spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushin. And the topic for discussion tonight is consider what is of benefit to you. And we'd love you to join us in any questions or with any questions or comments. The number to contact us here in the studio in UK, it is 079 444 31366. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. And again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. And we are broadcasting obviously on our website, which is blessedradio.org, or you can also go to tunein.com and search for Bless FM. And also YouTube, if you go to youtube.com to listen to the live show, you can type in Bless Radio 1 space live stream, which is one word. and then you can hear us live. And after 10 minutes at the end of the show, which is finishing at 8 p.m., you can hear a recording. Just look for Bro Saad, B-R-O, Bro Saad, my name S-A-A-D, and the Grail Message, and then type in the topic for tonight, which is consider what is of benefit to you. Okay, I'm going to go back to Brother Gregory now. Brother Gregory, we've been hearing from Brother Rainer about, I asked the question about desires, following our desires, and he made it very clear that we really need to think hard that these desires are not, they're basically good desires and not something that will have a negative or bad effect. And he also mentioned that, if we did it and if we cooperated with our environment, we can have a paradise on this earth. So my question to you, to follow on from that, really, it's we can, let's say, want to do good things, but then we live on this earth with other human beings whom, let's say, majority may not want to do good things. If that is the case, can we have, can we receive benefit for ourselves, or do we have to wait in the beyond? Because let's say our good deeds are weighed, and then let's say we get our reward there rather than on the earth. So really, can we have, if people around us are not, let's say, of the same mind as us, which is what I mean is the majority, meaning that we want to create a paradise or have a good things, with cooperation with the environment. If people are not of that type on this earth, can we receive any benefit here, or do we just have to wait until we pass on? That's to Brother Gregory.
Life is for the living. To be alive only means to be on the alert, to weigh everything that comes one's way and make a decision which, in quotes, should be of benefit. For something to be of benefit doesn't mean it has to satisfy the intellect only. What we want may not be what we need. For children, if you prepare some food for them, they may tell you they prefer to have ice cream all day, or they prefer to have sweets because it is sweet. However, on the long run, you will find that it doesn't help them in a healthy development. For us as human spirit, the human spirit issued as an unconscious spirit germ from the paradise of man and had to journey a long distance, passing the animistic realm and finally coming to the ethereal realm and then gross matter. It is the inner part of man. All else is covering. Even the physical body is covering. The intellect, of which man is so proud, only issues from the gross material earth here. Therefore, when it is mentioned that something has to be of benefit, it has to be of benefit to the spirit. For it is the spirit that is alive. If things are not of benefit to the spirit, then they are utterly useless, because the spirit will not mature, and the spirit has come to gather experiences to mature. Whether they have to go through sorrow or they have to go through joy, all these leave their imprint for the inner part of man, which is the human spirit, to evaluate and use it for its own personal maturity. Therefore, one should not sit down and calculate intellectually and say, oh, maybe when I go over, I will have something of benefit, or I'm expecting good things to flow my way. Sometimes what we refer to as good things is terribly dangerous for us. At the same time, what we may consider as bitter may be very good, not only for the physical body, but experiences which the human spirit, the inner core of man, needs in order to mature. Whether it be real joy or terrible sorrow. For many times, a man only wakes up when it has gone through terrible sorrow, and then is able to differentiate what is of use to it and of benefit to it, and what is transient and not of real benefit. So one should live in the present, evaluating all that comes across it or what it comes across, not only intellectually, but allowing these experiences to go past the intellect straight to the spirit. That is what is of benefit. And then, in making use of these experiences, is able to mature, for when it comes to the spirit, is able to draw from the power that streams through creation, because it has the ability and is able to understand the laws of creation. The intellect can only do at best simulations, but the spirit is able, through experiences, to understand these laws and live accordingly. That is what is of benefit.
Thank you for that, Brother Gregory. I'm going to come back to you now, Brother Reiner. I'm just thinking whether, I mean, you see things in the news and you see famous people, you know, let's say being successful, and they write their autobiographies, and sometimes, and then let's say somebody's living a life with who's like a role model, you know, living healthily and something like that. So, Brother Reiner, would you say it is good to sort of read their material, the things the advice they give, and maybe follow that diet or whatever they exercise they have been doing? Is it? I'm going to use the word copy because I can't think of any other better word than that. Should we copy people who are successful like that, or are we supposed to find our own ways, you know, of how to live, which is something that is beneficial for us? So, yeah.
I mean, thank you for the question. In fact, it's a very important question, and we have to look at it more deeply. I mean, the word is someone, in a very abstract way, someone else does well, and can I just mimic or copy his moves and do the same moves and be successful too? And quite clearly, copying is not the way to do it, because when you copy something, you do not understand it. The most important thing when we do something, if something is to be of benefit of us, we must understand why we do it. And I quote a sentence from the Grail Message. It is a basic condition that you must be capable of grasping everything intended to benefit you. That you must be capable of grasping is the same as you must be capable of understanding. It's a basic condition that you must be capable of understanding everything intended to benefit you. So this really precludes any copying. You are your own person, and of course you can learn things, but you have to learn so long until you understand it. Only then you really stand on your own two legs. You must be able to do the same thing because you understand every little bit of how it works. And once you have that, if you have practically gone all the way that other person has gone. You have to do the same way again. You cannot jump to his level. You have to learn all those things, and that's true for technical or spiritual, on the spiritual level. You have to go through all the steps, one step after the other, till you understand everything and are proficient in everything and have mastered all the things that you can build the thing. And once you have built the thing, then of course you can further develop it because you understand the thing. If you just copied it, you have no understanding how to continue with it or how to do something else or how to further develop it because you're just copying it. So the wise person, I think, at a recent example, I like China and Japan. People have said at the start, oh, those nations, they just copy. Well, it's not true. They have looked very deeply at the things. Both of the people have really learned in a very short time an unbelievable amount of scientific and technical knowledge, absorbed it practically from the West, which was at that time technologically more advanced, but not anymore. And they have caught up and understood it deeply, and now they further develop the things, and they are then both the countries are on the leading edge of scientific understanding and research in many parts. I mean, in most parts, I would even say, in many parts, definitely. And Japan anyways, is leading everywhere. So they have not simply copied, as people say. They have really studied it and understood, and now they can build wonderful instruments and wonderful technological wonders, and are on the forefront in almost all major areas of technology. And so forget about copying. If you copy, that's something wrong. You must, and this concerns also the spiritual thing or the cultural level. You are not to copy something. You are not a Japanese or you are not something else. You must stand in your own culture, in your own sphere, and develop that culture and enhance that specific kind of beauty which belongs to that specific country and to that specific people. You must develop it further and further, and then it will become in the end a marvel to the rest of the world, and people will actually say this is just a stunning, highly developed culture. But it will not be the same as, let us say, some Occidental or Oriental culture. It will be your culture. And so on a cultural aspect, in any aspect, I would say copying is always wrong, because copying is doing something without understanding. And copying also implies that you copy something which is not in harmony with your own nature. And that's very important. If you are not in harmony with your own nature and you do something which is not really you, you do not know yourself. But you must know yourself. You must be aware and must find out, who am I and what is my way of being. And so I think in all respects, copying is a stupid thing to do. It doesn't lead anywhere, and you will have no benefits whatsoever from it.
Thank you for that.
Even if you
Oh,
copy something and do something good because
yes.
someone else did it, because you do not, with the right emotional setup, with the right, I call it emotions, because you must be overwhelmed by doing it for someone else. You must be driven by some empathy, by some love for another person, and you must want to help him. If you just copy being someone else and you give money to that person without an inner participation, it's worthless. You will get no reciprocal action from it, no spiritual benefit. This action has no blessings. Copying in all its manifestations, there's no blessing on such an action. I pass it back to you, sir.
Thank you for that.
Prabhupada.
Thank you for that, Brother Rainer. I'm going to look at another thing now with you, Brother Gregory. Reflection. You know, because we've been talking about, you know, following our desires and experiencing and so on. But what about reflecting, Brother Gregory? You know, we do things, consequences happen, you know, history, we see things in history, things are being repeated over and over and over, you know, mistakes that people have made, we don't seem to be learning. So, so my question to you, Brother Gregory, really is, first of all, you think we should reflect, and then if so, how we should reflect? Some people meditate, some people, I guess, well, no, that will be something else I would ask later. But, you know, maybe they... Yeah, so what do you say about reflection? Do you think we should reflect? And if so, how we should reflect? That's my question to Brother Gregory.
Well, whoever lives a life without reflection is dead. Because reflection only means that information is taken in and evaluated in order to learn the necessary lessons to move forward. So if information is not taken in and evaluated, or is evaluated at an intellectual level alone, then the benefits will only be at an intellectual level alone. It doesn't get to the spirit, which spirit is the key. So one can already see the consequences of lack of reflection. For before you take a third or fourth step, one has to ensure that the second step one is taking, one has to ensure that the soil is firm enough. So if you take the first step and you are sinking, it's only wise to reflect if one to take a second step to sink further. So one would say a person that does not reflect before carrying out some activities stands in a very precarious soil in which it is bound to sink deeper and deeper. But the reflection should not be kept only to the intellect, that these expressions must be passed to the spirit to learn the necessary lessons. It is passed to the spirit to evaluate, because it is the spirit that counts.
And would you say, because you said they reflect with the intellect and also with the spirit, so is there some sort of balance between the two of them, that when you examine something, or is there some one is, let's say, more important than the other one, with the spirit or the intellect?
The spirit and the intellect are supposed to work in harmony. When things work in harmony, would one say one is more important than the other? For the spirit needs the intellect or needs the physical body to gather experience in a homogeneous environment. Therefore, the intellect or the spirit is indispensable. The intellect is indispensable to the spirit because the intellect is the tool that it uses to gather experience, or all the impressions first come to the frontal brain, which is the seat of the intellect, and streams to the back brain and then to the spirit. If, however, the experiences get to the frontal brain and does not get to the spirit is unable to evaluate the experiences because they are not just there. The information is not just there. So you cannot work with what you don't have. And therefore the spirit lacks the necessary experience. Therefore, it is wise to say that the spirit and the intellect should work in harmony. The spirit cannot dismiss the intellect because it is its tool, the executive tool. When the spirit has made the right decisions, it passes that experience back, or that impression back, to the frontal brain, and things can then move forward.
Thank you for that. I'll go back to Brother Reiner now. Brother Reiner, what about self-belief or confidence, in achieving our goals? So, I know we've talked about that we have to cooperate with our environment, but we are the ones doing the actions. Especially on the earth, let's say. So we are the leading creature on the earth. So, Brother Rana, would you say that that is the main driving force for us to achieve our goals? That we have confidence that ourselves that we can achieve it, or is there something more than that also we need?
Well, confidence is, of course, incredibly important. But I cannot just say, "Oh, I will have confidence," or "I will have confidence in myself. I will have confidence in this or the other thing." Confidence is only if a thing is good, you can have confidence in it. If it's not so good, you should have no confidence in it that it serves the purpose for which it is built. And a badly built ship, if you examine it first and you see some holes and hear some things which are not worked properly, and you can imagine that the water might enter there, or that doesn't withstand a lot, you should not have. That is not a confidence-inspiring fact, and then you will have no confidence. So it's definitely wrong to say you must have confidence or you should have confidence. That concerns also yourself. You might quite actually be doubtful about your own being, and do you have the qualities for this or that, and you might lack the confidence to do this or that, and probably you should not do it, because there are things, of course, which are above your current level, and there's that's no bad thing, and there are things you can do. So now, if you have an aim, which is a healthy aim, and it's a good aim, and you have this, and emotionally, on the emotional level, you know, I want to do that, I want to reach that aim. Then of course, that's another thing. Then of course you should know, and you should know so much about creation and about the laws of creation that you can say, oh, with the help of those laws of creation, I will be able to achieve it. And since it is a good aim which a human being can achieve, and you know about the human beings, you know about the capabilities of a human being, you know what a human being is, then you can have full confidence um, of achieving that aim. And in fact, to achieve it, you must be confident. If you have no confidence, then then you are being undermined, and every you are not sure of any step you take, and it might be just a treacherous surface, and you might sink into the mud. No, you must know about the human being, and you must know that there is a step-by-step approach to reach any aim, as long as it is a good aim, a reasonable aim, which is in the scope of human of what a human can achieve, and it's in line with your nature. And then you should not disparage. Then you should stride towards that aim in a confident manner. So, but again, the presuppose the fundamental thing there underlying everything is you must know yourself, you must know what a human being is, and you must know that that aim is a good aim. If you are if you are in some kind a certain person who is not very good in mathematics, and struggles with mathematics, and you've always been struggling with it, and you dislike mathematics, then of course you should abstain from trying to become a professor of mathematics and trying to delve deeply in that very difficult subject matter, and you say, well, this is just not for me. And if you pursue that against all odds, then of course, if you honestly look at yourself and see what is, then you will see, oh, I'm not made for this. And if you portray a confidence to achieve that aim, it's just a pseudo-confidence. It's just a show you put on. Because the spirit knows very well, your spirit, your emotions, on an emotional level, you always know if that aim is achievable or not achievable. And and if it's an achievable aim, then then of course you can have full confidence that you reach this aim. Now, the aim, of course, which is here important, and some aims, the Grail Message tells you, the spiritual aim, to aim for spiritual maturity and to become a purified, fully matured human being, that is within reach of every human being, wherever the human being is staying, and you can have full confidence of reaching that aim if you start with it. It's a way you have to go, a long way. You have to take many steps, and one step after the other. But eventually every step will lead you a little bit upwards, will free you a little bit of all the things which weigh you down, and will feel liberated, more and more liberated from some weight. One weight after the other will fall off your soul, and once you have a light soul, which is almost, you begin you begin to feel your wings again, the wings of your spirit once it's being freed if you go upward that way. And once you do that, of course, you can also set your aim to material ends. And if there are good aims, there's no reason why you could not obtain it. But again, to have confidence or not confidence is not an act you can will or you can decide upon it. It is you look at something, you examine it, and then it might be confidence inspiring, or it might be that you do not trust it. But it's really listening to something, to a state of things. It's the assessment of a state of affairs. And if the affairs are good looking, you have confidence. If they are not so good looking, you do not have confidence and you stay away from it. But you cannot force yourself. I want to become brain surgeon and I want to be confident about it, and I will portray that confidence to the outside world. Or I want to become a mega star or something. On those things, every reasonable person knows that that this is not so easy and might be a very foolish dream to set your hopes on some aims of that sort. Okay, I'll pass it back to you, Brother Saad.
Thank you for that, Brother Rainer. And I wanted to just go on from what you're saying there, because sometimes, things are not completely in your hands. Let's say your parents are bringing you up and they say you must go this career, and it's not what you want to do, but you go for it. And it's like we are always under some challenges and trials. And then, let's say, eventually, maybe 10 years later, what you actually wanted to achieve, somehow that opening opens up, because what you actually originally wanted wasn't, let's say you were being diverted from that, and then or it could be just a learning curve that you have to go through, learn to do something on your side. I don't know if there's a film called Karate Kid, where this person wants to be good in karate, but to become good in karate, he has to wash the car and he has to do other exercises which he doesn't think are relevant, actually. But then the master who's teaching him knows what's behind it, and then so he's not happy to do it initially, and then later he sees the benefit after as he goes further into the in this case actually he wants to be a karate person, let's say a master on karate, but he just doesn't, the way to get there, he doesn't appreciate that like his master who's teaching him, who knows it. So sometimes you have to, let's say, I'm going to use the word forced into a particular direction before you realize actually why that you're doing this, why why it is actually necessary for you to go through that. So I don't know if you want to respond to that.
I think such films, they're really quite good films, and there are many such films which have been made with great insight into human nature, and people can learn from them. And of course, if you have such a teacher like this master, you are of course very lucky, and he knows that you have to go a long way step by step, and to become a karate expert in that martial art, you have to learn many other things beforehand till you come there, and he's forcing you to go back to all those steps. And that boy probably, I have to say now, he was in a silly situation. Many people just think, oh, they can do it. Oh, I can do it. I heard recently a boy, 17-year-old, talking to his father, and his father was told, and his father said, he had in school learned something about strategic planning, not operational planning, but strategic planning, and to work as a consultant, planning, giving strategy advice to huge multinational corporations, let us say like Exxon or BASF or something like this. Well, you can just smile. First of all, not any one of those people steering such a huge ship will let an outsider, just a 21-year-old boy coming just from university, having had no experience of the business, tell him which direction they should take. And this is long-term planning that requires a lot of expertise, a lot of wisdom, and a lot of know-how where things will go in the future and in which direction to steer the ship, that it will survive the hazardous cliffs of of modern life. And this is exactly that Karate Kid. He must first learn how such a business works. And some 100 years ago, people really started at the bottom. And if someone was in a business, he had to go through all the departments to get to know everything quite in depth before he was allowed to take decisions. That means he had to know it before, and that was a prerequisite. He had to know everything and and understand it. And once he had that, then perhaps he was allowed to make decisions. But then he had to also prove that he's far-sighted enough, that he can assess, that he's emotionally aware enough how the society how the society works, where the demand is, and how the economic situation is, and how to find what suppliers are good and what suppliers are bad. There are whole lots of incredible difficult decisions and financial decisions which you just cannot do just like this, and you have to learn a lot. Unfortunately, nowadays it is like there is you can study and study manager or something. Of course, you will not get a job as a manager right away. But the universities do like this. There's a 21-year-old coming from university and or has finished university, some course, and think he can manage a multi-billion company. Of course, you cannot. You cannot even manage a little one-family hotel without having learned many things. And this concept, which we talked about before, which is this, and which is also with this Karate Kid, you have to start at the bottom and go all the way up and understand it, not just copy what the other person does, but understand why this is being done and how it is being done and how it works exactly. And this understanding is a prerequisite so that we get the right people at the top. And unfortunately, many people think they can have some very responsible post in society, where every decision has very extremely far-reaching consequences, just like this. And unfortunately, this is just a delusion those people live in, and that Karate Kid probably, if he thought he can be a great master just without any learning and humble learning and experiencing all the steps until he has reached that masterhood, he would then be a deluded guy. But since he's got such a brilliant teacher who made him really say, you have to wash a car, or you have to do this and that. That is then the right way to do it. And you can learn a lot from those simple things, how to wash properly a car, or how to clean the staircase I've once seen a monastery for managers in a film, a Buddhist monastery, high above in the snow. It was incredibly cold and I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. But there was one thing, the managers of big Toyota or something, he was cleaning the stairs in an incredible speed and with an incredible thoroughness. And he had to go through that experience and mature by it and pick up something from this thing. This is how a staircase, how stairs are being cleaned properly. And you have to know it, this task which looks so menial and low, but that makes you, that is that one essential thing. If that's missing, you cannot be a good manager. And that was very similar to the story you played. Yeah, this school for managers in Japan, in that monastery, in that Buddhist monastery, where they had to do very menial things, but every task was not just to get the stairs clean, but the spirit learned something. You learned the principle of life, and you learn something on a spiritual level with everything you do. And we must again start seeing that duality. We live here and do things in this gross material world, but through interacting in the gross material world and doing often very menial tasks, our spirit matures. And that could be cleaning the stairs, that could be washing the car, or that could be cooking dinner, or it could be anything. But everything is important and contributes to the maturation of our spirit. So I pass it back to you. Thank you. Perhaps you can tell, perhaps people should watch that film Karate Kid.
Yes.
I have a look out for it.
Yes. Thank you for that. Brother Gregory, I want to come to you now and I want to ask you, should parents help their grown-up children with material things? Let's say in UK, we know the house prices have been rocketing up for long, well, maybe not right now, but for some time. And there seems to be a dream that everybody should own their own home. And these homes seem to be impossible to buy with the salaries of people today, except obviously unless you're really well off. You can't get the deposit you can't buy it basically unless, and then some parents who are in a fortunate position to be able to give help with the deposit to their children who are grown up, like I said, grown up children. I know it's a material question, but I just want to use that as explore this. So, do you think it's a good idea? And of course, some people can do it, and some people cannot do it. It's like almost, some parents are capable of that possibility, and others are not. So, what would you say? Is that actually benefiting the grown-up children by getting this help? Or, I just asked that to you, Brother Gregory.
Each personality has a free will. And what is right is for the individual to reflect very carefully before activities are implemented or carried out. So if a so-called grown-up who is working with its child or some other decide to assist that child, then it is well and good. If it decides not to, the child cannot hold it responsible. But at the same time, the roles could be reversed. Consider that you have a child who, in quotes, is no more a child, is now a grown-up, and is busy with his career. And you now have a parent who is unwell. One might as well ask, is it right for the child or the grown-up to assist his or her father who is unwell because he's not in a position. Each personality has a free will and has its own intuition. As they sense, so they should carry it out. One cannot make a rule and say this is what they must do. But one thing is clear. What a man has sown, that he or she must reap. Many a thing which we should have done, or some things we've left undone, the repercussions will always fall back. In whatever case, whatever returns we have, be it joyful or of sorrow, those should be taken in and ensure that it enriches our spirit. That means in joy or sorrow, we can learn the necessary lessons.
Thank you for that, Brother Gregory. I'm going to go to, maybe I'll ask Brother Gregory to answer this question as well. I want to ask you, Brother Gregory, about how to balance the spiritual and material needs, because on the earth, we are obviously we have our spirit here, and also we have material needs. So, how do we sort of get a balance on that?
The problem is always to think that the spirit is there and the here is the earth. In the course of the discussion, we always mentioned that they should walk in harmony. It is true that there are needs of the spirit and there are needs of the body or of the intellect. One cannot say, oh, this is what you must do or this is what you must not do. For the spirit needs a healthy physical body to be able to experience properly. So it is not possible to separate and say, these ones are my spiritual needs, these ones are my earthly needs. The only advice that may be given is that the spirit and the intellect should work harmoniously in accordance with the edicts that creation has proffered, that experiences or activities from within the spirit are passed on to the back brain, from which those experiences are forwarded to the frontal brain, and activities are carried out in writing or whatever. And then the reverse is also true, that experiences from without are passed on to the frontal brain, which is then translated to the back brain and straight to the spirit. So one cannot separate one and say, oh, I need this one or I don't need this one. They work in harmony.
Thank you for that. I just want to ask, Brother Rana, is there anything you'd like to add to that, what I've just asked about material and spiritual needs?
No, not really.
Okay. So, all right. Just want to remind the listeners, you're listening to Blessed Radio. It's the Tuesday night spiritual discussion program. And the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushin. And the topic for discussion tonight is consider what is of benefit to you. So if you'd like to join with any comments or questions, you're very welcome. The number to contact us here in UK, it is 079 444 31366. You can call, text or use WhatsApp, and if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. There's something a listener has written, but I'm not too I can't follow it myself, so I'm struggling to see if I read it out and I can't make sense of it myself, so I'm not sure I want to share it yet about that. So let me leave that.
Why is it a very long thing?
It is actually very, very long, and I'm finding it.
Okay. Can we tell the readers or the listeners just to ask short questions, preferably?
Yes. I think it's more of a comment.
These things.
Yeah.
And there should be real questions.
Yes. Okay. So please, listeners, do send us more sort of questions or short points so that we can actually follow them or give some response to that. So I'm going to leave that for now. Okay. I want to ask you, Brother Ryan, about guidance, and because we've talked about reflection, and we talked about our intuition, and we've talked about experiencing. So what about guidance? Do we need to pray, or do we need some anything else outside of us to let's say live in a way which benefits us and the environment? Because we've said that it has to be a cooperation to have the genuine benefit of living a life which gives love, justice and peace and happiness. We must have to cooperate with these natural laws we've mentioned before. But can we have also some access to some guidance somehow? So that's to you, Brother Rainer.
I mean, I think to summarize a little bit what we've said, it seems it looks like there are perhaps a little loose threads. There's this one process where we said we must cooperate in the great creation of God. Cooperate, of course, with the way God created that creation, and we must do that in a way for the benefit of the environment. Now, if I benefit from the environment, I want to do good, and I do good with my on an emotional level because my heart is in it, and I do it out of my heart. I do it on the intellectual level, and I do it on the material level. This changing or uplifting the environment is actions on all levels, and every action results in a reciprocal action. And the reciprocal action is will that because I'm doing good, I will get good back. I'm sowing good, as Jesus Christ has put it, and I will reap good things. So if I do something for the environment, I automatically do something. I do something for myself. If I help some person, if I have a friendly word for the person in the queue in front of me, I'm doing it for myself. If I'm really help that person with all my attentiveness and whoever it is, and the reciprocal action, that what I've sown will come back to me. And that's the important thing. I rely on this law. In all those things, we rely on that law. What I will sow, I will reap. Or what one sows, one will reap. And there's no way around it. So do good, uplift the environment. That means you uplift yourself at the same moment. Now, the guidance to everyone knows in his heart what is good, and you must only keep, and you can always perceive that, and you must then listen to your emotions, to that instrument you have within in you, those vibrations of the spirit. They will tell you very exactly what to do, and I think that is the primary means. And you do not need to pray a lot, because in fact that prayer is anyway always an asking, and you ask something and you ask for clarification. No, you must just be good, be open, emotionally open, and feel and try to sense what is good. Now, in special circumstances, there can be outside help, and several types of outside help are described, and the mechanisms, how it works. And I would say there's always this famous, your spirit, you have this type of conscience, and part of the conscience can actually be influenced by someone else who wants to help you, or who can help you, and who is actually in the beyond. And so you have a helper in the beyond. But if you listen, if you are careful to what is going on inside of you, you will feel or perceive his influence by listening to your conscience. And many times it can be really that that some part of your conscience was really influenced by your helper in the beyond. What you actually do, there are the pricks of conscience, and the conscience will say, "Oh, what you're doing is wrong." You still can decide, "I'm doing the wrong thing," in spite of it, because you have the free will. You can never be forced to go that way or the other way. Well, this is the normal case, that we have got a helper, and this is just a human being very close to us, not really more advanced, or just perhaps slightly more advanced, but very close to us, so and having the same faults, or having had the same faults as we do. And because of this knowing us, because there's a great common thing between our helper and myself, the one being helped here on earth, because of that common fault we share. You always share something with such a person. And the detailed mechanism, we really should go a little bit further into it, is described in the Grail Message, and I'll point now to the Grail Message, because there are many things to talk about. But believe me, there is such a helper, and he knows us very well, because he shares his faults, have been his own faults he has been fighting with, and which can influence our conscience, and we can have a contact with him through our conscience. That is essentially what makes up part of our conscience, not the whole conscience, but some part in it. And if we listen to it or not listen to it, that's the free will we have. Then there are other helpers, of course, there are not other helpers, no, that's not true, but there are guides, which I really do not want to speak about it, because in most cases for us normal human beings, that means the generality or the great majority of human beings, we do not have contact with other higher beings, whatever their nature is, and so and we probably never will have contact. at least not here on Earth. And I'm not talking about mediumistic things or any such thing. As a normal human being, of course, very often in very dangerous situations, when it's a matter of life and death, there are then lots of cases where actually you are guided by something almost inexplicable, and directs you and talks to you and gets you out of this situation. But these are really terrifying situations. One is described by Oliver Sacks, who is this great psychologist, and if you have time, read his books. They're really wonderful. Oliver Sacks, and it is in his book on hallucinations. And there he recounts that he was in the mountains on some glacier, and he fell into one of those crevices, and he thought, so that's it, and he's been injured and lying there at the bottom. And he describes how an inner voice talked to him and said, try to get up, go slowly, take one step, slowly after the other, and go in that direction. He was telling them the direction, and this Oliver Sacks just followed, being wounded, he just followed that and made one step, and it seemed an eternity, but somehow he got to a place where he was found eventually. Now, these things are reported quite frequently, and there are special cases, and quite hopefully, I hope I will never be in such a situation. And if I would be in such a situation, of course, if I would get such a kind of help, which saves my life, you cannot be more grateful for it. But this is exceptional. This is not something you can just want like this. And so this is what I want to talk about, outside help. And praying to God, it is really asking that question, God, grant me that I find what the right thing to do is in this situation. And I must do that before I do something, and not after I've done something. After you are in a mess, then many people, once they are in a terrible mess, they can't get forward nor backward, and they know no way out. Then they start praying to God. Well, they should have prayed before they got into the situation, and trying to see, what do the laws of creation say? What does my emotional self say? Am I really in touch with my emotions? What do they tell me? And listen to your emotions, and so that you do not make this fatal step, that is, say, marry a wrong spouse, or making a wrong career decision, or something like this. You can, but their prayer is good, but it's really before you do something. Once you're in a mess, you're always in the mess on your own accord. God didn't order you into that mess, and this is because you took a wrong decision. So I think, as a big advice, I think it's my advice for next and for this week to anyone, before you do something, always ask, is this what the light wants us to do, or what the light would me to do? And is that in accordance with the laws of the light, or with the laws of creation? And I pass it back to you, Brother Saad.
Thank you very much, Brother Rainer. Now, I've tried to read this long text from this listener, and I think it'll take ages for us to respond. But what you've just said, Brother Rainer, it sort of ties in with what you just mentioned about choosing your spouse. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read it out, and I think we'll just not read the whole out, just a little bit out, and then I think we can address it next week. I think that's probably the best way. because it's more to do with marriage, I would say, but it's also to do with what is the benefit. So let me just read it out. It's about basically a marriage relationship, so I'm going to read it. Is one ascending or descending in any given moment in time? If two are going round and round, ever downward spiraling conditions, but they have given their vow in marriage. For example, does it benefit either one when neither can rise above themselves, not even for the sake of love? For one human being to another, or even for themselves, as their religious beliefs dictate that they must. I think I'm going to end it there, because I think from what I'm getting from that this text is basically you're living in a marriage where it's not working, and both of you are suffering, and but you've made this vow that to be forever together. So what does it benefit for them to be together? So I'm not going to go any further, because we've come to the end of the show now, and our next presenter, Brother Sayom, is ready to come on. So dear listeners, thank you for listening to us tonight. I'm just going to ask my two colleagues if they like to say anything to end the show. I'll go to Brother Gregory first. Anything you'd like to say to the listeners?
A good week.
Have a good week. Very good. And to Brother Rainer, anything you'd like to say?
Yes, about this letter, perhaps we can talk about it next week a little bit, because it's a pity. That seems to be looks to me like a real problem, and a problem many people are in. Perhaps
that's right. So
talk about it. Just bring it up again.
I'll bring it up. I'm going
till then you've got also time to figure out exactly, break it up into more simple questions.
Yes, I will work on that, and exactly what you just said, that's perfect. I'm going to send you this question or this point, and then we can think about it and talk about it next week. That'll be perfect. So
so that listener can stay tuned in, and perhaps he's there next week again. He should be.
So we'll do that.
Yes, and otherwise, Brother Saad, a goodbye from me, and see you next week.
See you next week, yes. So we don't have the topic yet for next week, but we will have it obviously when we start the next show. So thank you for listeners for being with us. I hope you enjoyed the show. The topic was today, for the benefit of Brother Sayom, consider what is of benefit to you. This was very nice. And actually, there's somebody who sent a message who wants to make an announcement. I'm just going to do it for them. Let me just find it for just now. It is a meeting that is happening on Tuesday, the 11th of December at 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. and it's in Brixton. And so the meeting is it's the Metropolitan Black Police Association in partnership with Lambeth Police invites you to a community event on Tuesday, the 11th of December 2018, and time 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at the Caribou Centre, which is 7 Gresham Road, Brixton, London SW9 7PH. It says, come and discuss the recent changes in stop and search, your views and your rights. So that's the invitation for this meeting on Tuesday, 11 December, 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. About your held by the Black Police Association. And it's at the Caribou Centre, 7 Gresham Road, Brixton, London SW9 7PH. So, yes, listeners, join us again next Tuesday. Have a great week. God bless. And Brother Sayom's next. All the best, everyone. Take care.